For 11 years under the rule of Oliver Cromwell, English society was strictly puritanical. Theaters were banned and public morals were aggressively policed. That in 1660, the monarchy was restored. The cultural pendulum swung violently in the opposite direction, bringing an explosion of vice, body art, and public excess. At the center of this cultural whiplash was King Charles II. Known as the Merry Monarch, Charles surrounded himself with a highly visible roster of mistresses. He showered these women with lavish gifts, massive financial stipends, and noble titles for their illegitimate children. The English public deeply resented this arrangement. Look at this text from a 1681 satirical poem blaming the king's financial troubles on his mistresses. The public viewed these women as illicit power brokers, swaying the king's decisions and bleeding the kingdom dry. The primary lightning rod for this public outrage was Louise de Keroualle. As a French Catholic aristocrat, she represented an exact intersection of the English public's deepest xenophobic and religious anxieties. But competing directly with Louise for the king's affection was a woman from the absolute bottom of the social ladder. She was a foul-mouthed, illiterate actress who had spent her childhood serving drinks in a London brothel. Yet the notoriously paranoid and tax-burdened English public embraced this lower-class woman. They celebrated her, while simultaneously trying to tear her aristocratic rival apart. To understand how a mistress draining the royal treasury became a national hero, we have to look at how she learned to communicate. Eleanor, or Nell, Gwyn, started her working life in the slums. After helping out in her mother's Covent Garden bawdy house, she managed to secure a job at the new Drury Lane Theatre, selling oranges and sweetmeats to the raucous crowds. She arrived at a moment of sudden cultural opportunity. Upon taking the throne, King Charles II issued a decree that equalized female actors on the English stage, overturning decades of tradition where young men played the female roles. This animated diagram breaks down the shift in stage dynamics. On the left is the old archetype, passive and played by men. Notice the contrast on the right. Playwrights began inventing a new character specifically for women, the comedy of manners heroine. Nell Gwyn mastered this role, playing witty, sexually assertive leads whose primary comedic function was to puncture upper-class hypocrisy. By 1668, Nell had caught the king's attention and retired from acting to become his official mistress. But she did not attempt to adopt the refined manners of the aristocracy. She deliberately brought her street-smart, working-class theatrical persona straight into the royal court. The Restoration stage was a high-stakes, ruthless environment where a simple line could win or lose an audience. For Nell, this was the training ground where she learned to project a persona that could hold its own against England's most powerful men. In the 1670s, England was gripped by severe political paranoia. The public was intensely fearful of a Catholic takeover and deeply suspicious of French influence over their government. This academic abstract details how the public categorized the king's lovers. With no suitable queen to act as a moral counterweight, the public projected their anxieties onto the mistresses, splitting them cleanly into the wholesome and the unwholesome. The public's fear of Catholicism and anti-Frenchness intertwined with their views on sexuality. Nell was English and Protestant. Those simple demographic facts allowed the public to mold her image into the good category, placing her in direct opposition to her French Catholic rival. This dynamic was put to the ultimate test in 1681. Nell was traveling through London when an angry, violent mob surrounded her carriage. They mistook her for the Duchess of Portsmouth, the hated French Catholic mistress, and began screaming insults and rocking the vehicle. Nell did not panic, and she didn't try to hide behind royal guards. Instead, she stuck her head out of the carriage window and shouted to the crowd, "Pray, good people, be civil. I am the Protestant whore." The crowd laughed, stopped their attack, and let her pass. By loudly owning her status, openly calling herself a whore, she removed the weapon from her attacker's hands. Pairing that with her Protestant identity instantly neutralized the specific political anxieties driving the mob. Look at this engraving of Nell Gwyn from the era. She accumulated massive wealth, secured a freehold townhouse on Pall Mall, and obtained noble titles for her sons. While rivals like Louise faced constant political hostility, Nell managed to secure her family's future, remaining a widely popular figure on the streets. King Charles II recognized her loyalty. Even on his deathbed in 1685, he made sure to issue a specific instruction to his brother and successor: let not poor Nellie starve. You can still see the physical footprint of her public image today at the Royal Hospital, Chelsea, a grand architectural refuge built for aging, impoverished military veterans. Historians have found very little documentary evidence proving Nell actually convinced the king to build this hospital, but the fact that the London public universally credited her with the idea shows she had achieved total victory in the court of public opinion. In a court defined by carefully constructed images and hidden agendas, Nell Gwyn succeeded by refusing to hide. By leaning into her origins rather than escaping them, she turned her lack of status into her greatest protection.